Blood-red shirt. In the world of assassins, that name means only one thing. If you see him, don't expect to walk away alive. And yet, the man feared across the entire underworld is standing quietly in a company hallway, head lowered, casually checking his watch. 6:17 p.m. Cha Si-hyuk calculates the time in his head. If he leaves now, he should still make it to his mother-in-law's house before 7 o'clock to pick up Miju for dinner. 7 bodies lie scattered across the floor in front of him. He steps over them without even slowing down. For Cha Si-hyuk, this is routine. He has worked for the company for exactly 10 years. During that time, no one has ever surpassed his kill record. No one has dared to attempt the solo missions he completed. In the underworld, he is known as Korea's strongest assassin. But today is different. Today, Cha Si-hyuk submitted his resignation. The reason is simple. His wife is pregnant. The child could be born any day now, and for the first time in his life, Cha Si-hyuk wants something other than bloodshed. He doesn't want his child growing up knowing what kind of monster their father was. Inside the chairman's office, silence hangs heavily in the air. The tension is razor-sharp. Everyone exchanges nervous glances, waiting for Chairman Lee Kwong-won to react. But the chairman simply waves his hand dismissively. Let him go. Cha Si-hyuk believes that's the end of it. As he leaves the building, he's already thinking about tonight. He plans to finally give Miju the birthday present he never had time to deliver last month. An expensive necklace he spent a ridiculous amount of money on. She'll definitely smile when she sees it. But the moment he steps outside the company gates, someone blocks his path. The attacker barely has time to move. One punch. That's all it takes. The man collapses to the ground, gasping for air. Cha Si-hyuk grabs him by the collar and asks coldly, "Who sent you?" Terrified, the man spits out the truth. The company already marked him for death. Did he really think resigning meant he could leave alive? Cha Si-hyuk goes silent for 2 long seconds. Then suddenly, he runs. Straight toward home. When he arrives, the front door is open. Blood stains the floor. The orchid Miju loved still sits peacefully by the windowsill, blooming beautifully under the warm sunlight. The sight feels painfully normal compared to the horror surrounding it. Then he hears a voice from inside the house. Calm, relaxed, almost amused. One eye. The assassin sits comfortably in a chair inside Cha Si-hyuk's home, smiling casually. "I didn't even know you were having a kid," he says mockingly. "You'd betray the chairman over something so trivial?" The man I knew wasn't the type to get tied down by baggage. His grin widens. And there's something even more interesting. He leans forward slowly. "Why don't you guess whether that bitch is dead or not?" The room falls silent. Nobody truly knows what happened next. But the survivors who witnessed it never forgot what they saw. Cha Si-hyuk snapped one eye's arm with one hand. Then he took the dagger and began to kill. There was nothing dramatic about the way he fought. No shouting. No flashy movements. His blade work was clean, precise, quiet, like a man completing routine office work. One after another, the assassins rushed him, and one after another, they fell. None of them survived long enough to react. Bodies piled across the house. Blood painted the walls. And when only one eye remained alive, Cha Si-hyuk slowly walked toward him. His entire body was drenched in blood. His eyes burned crimson, exactly like the legends described. But one eye still didn't understand what kind of monster stood before him. In fact, he looked excited. Cha Si-hyuk said nothing. Not a single word. Blade after blade, he stabbed him over and over again, turning his body into something barely human. A pincushion of flesh and blood. Only after the final strike did Cha Si-hyuk finally stop. He closed his eyes for a moment and whispered softly, "Calm down, Miju." Later, at the funeral home, he stands silently in front of his wife's photograph while holding a phone to his ear. Chairman Lee Kwong-won finally answers. "Keeping such a foolish subordinate was my mistake," the chairman says calmly. "I apologize. But no matter how foolish they were still my family. I have no choice now. I'll be sending killers after you." Cha Si-hyuk stares silently at Miju's photo. His voice is as still and cold as frozen water. "You won't need to send anyone." A long pause follows. Then he says quietly, Because I'll be coming myself. He hangs up the phone. Facing their wedding photograph one last time, he whispers, "Wait for me." Then he leaves the small home, still thick with the smell of blood and death. And for the first time in 10 years, the legendary assassin known as Blood Red Shirt is no longer working for the company. Now, he's hunting it. Lee Bong-won had long since been pushed to the margins by his younger brother, Lee Kwong-won. One of his legs was permanently broken, and his fall from power was so complete that people no longer treated him like a former heir, only a crippled old man living in exile with a handful of loyal followers. When Cha Si-hyuk entered the hideout, the atmosphere instantly turned hostile. One of Bong-won's men, a tall assassin with long hair, immediately stepped forward and grabbed him by the collar. "I don't know why you're not at headquarters right now," he snarled, "but I can't believe you actually had the nerve to come here." Before things could escalate further, Lee Bong-won appeared from the back room and calmly raised his hand. "That's enough," he said lazily. "You've stirred up quite the storm already. My men are on edge. Cut him some slack." The long-haired assassin reluctantly stepped back. Bong-won ordered him to make coffee for their guest before slowly taking a seat. Then he looked directly at Cha Si-hyuk. "Coming to see a retired old man like me at a time like this," he muttered. "What exactly do you want?" Cha Si-hyuk wasted no time. "You still have people inside headquarters." His voice was cold and direct. "Gather every last one of them. Prepare a car too." A brief silence followed. Then he said it plainly. "I'll kill Lee Kwong-won for you." The long-haired man exploded in anger. "What the hell are you talking about?" But Lee Bong-won remained strangely calm. He leaned back slowly and studied Cha Si-hyuk carefully. "Isn't it a little late for that?" he asked quietly. "The succession war ended years ago. You saw it yourself. Kwong-won and the Neville family crushed me completely." He glanced down bitterly at his ruined leg. "What power do I even have left now? Besides," a faint smile crossed his lips, "if Kwong-won kills you, that might actually benefit me." Cha Si-hyuk's eyes darkened. "Idiot." The room froze. He stared at Bong-won without emotion. "So you're still afraid of your little brother?" His voice became sharper. "Afraid he'll take your other leg too?" That was the final straw. The long-haired assassin grabbed Cha Si-hyuk by the collar again, rage boiling over. "I've had a problem with you from the beginning." But Cha Si-hyuk didn't waste time arguing. A flash of steel erupted through the room. His blade pierced straight into the man's back at lightning speed. Once, twice, again and again. The attacks were so fast that nobody even reacted until blood splattered across the table. By the time the long-haired man stopped moving, Cha Si-hyuk had already slammed his face down against the wood. The room fell deathly silent. Not a single person dared move. Cha Si-hyuk slowly looked back at Lee Bong-won. "You've tested me enough." His tone was completely emotionless. "I'll deal with your brother for you." A pause. "So tell me, are you in or not?" After Cha Si-hyuk finally left the hideout behind him, leaving only blood and corpses in his wake, Lee Bong-won suddenly burst into uncontrollable laughter. His eyes gleamed with madness and excitement. "Gentlemen." He smiled widely. "The tide is finally starting to turn." The next morning, Cha Si-hyuk appeared at the company entrance. His clothes were soaked in blood, yet his expression remained completely calm. The guards froze for nearly 3 full seconds before one of them screamed in terror. "Blood Red Shirt. He's here." Panic exploded across the entire headquarters. Inside the building, the captain of the White Shirt Division trembled as he activated the emergency alert. "Cha Si-hyuk has entered the building." His voice shook violently. Anyone who worked with him before knows exactly what that means. The elevator doors opened, and then the killing began. The assassin stationed outside barely had time to move before bodies started crashing onto the floor. Cha Si-hyuk's speed was terrifying. He moved like a violent gust of wind cutting through flesh. Men stumbled backward from his presence alone, and those foolish enough to attack him died instantly. One strike. Clean. Precise. Merciless. Some of the assassins tried to steady themselves, shouting desperately to boost morale. "There's only one of him." Everyone attacked together. But something terrifying had awakened inside Cha Si-hyuk. It wasn't anger. It wasn't excitement either. It felt more like relief. Like a man who had finally found the only thing left worth doing. Only moments earlier, Group A, 18 elite assassins, including the chairman's famous triplet brothers, had all fallen at his hands. The triplets were different from the others. They fought in perfect synchronization, constantly switching positions, targeting his blind spots, and trapping him from every direction. Cha Si-hyuk suffered serious injuries during the fight. A blade sliced open his side. Another pierced deep into his thigh. Blood poured from his wounds non-stop. But he knew dragging the fight out would kill him. So he abandoned defense completely. He traded wound for wound, forcing himself through the pain just to break their rhythm. And once the eldest brother fell, the battle was already over. The second brother stared at him with trembling eyes before collapsing to his knees, crying like a broken child. The tears of a man who had lost everything. Cha Si-hyuk didn't even look at him. Right now, nothing mattered except moving upward. Higher. Closer to Lee Kwong-won. At one point, an old colleague blocked the corridor in front of him. Cha Si-hyuk, the man pleaded desperately. Wake up. If you go in there, you'll die. For the first time in hours, Cha Si-hyuk actually stopped walking. He looked at the man carefully for a moment. Oh, right. Man-su. His voice softened slightly. The baby clothes you sent, he murmured quietly. Miju loved them. A faint pause followed. Thank you. Then, as calmly as if they had simply finished an ordinary conversation, Cha Si-hyuk stepped into the elevator once more. Meanwhile, the company's true elite forces were finally mobilized. The 12 branches. The finest assassins the organization possessed. A reward announcement spread instantly across headquarters. 10 billion won. Whoever kills Cha Si-hyuk gets everything. One of the branch leaders stepped forward slowly, gripping his weapon tightly. And for the first time since this nightmare began, even the elites looked afraid. One of the branch leaders stepped forward slowly, regret flickering faintly across his face. Captain Cha, he said quietly, you've taken this too far. How many people have to die before it's enough? Cha Si-hyuk lowered his eyes for a brief moment, thinking silently. Then he answered calmly. How much are they paying you? A faint smile crossed his blood-stained face. Whatever it is, it must be a very impressive amount. He slowly tightened his grip on the blade. Then I suppose this fight is worth trying. The battle erupted instantly. A storm of poison darts tore through the air, slicing thin cuts across his body. Every movement sent pain surging through the deep wound in his leg. Blood continued dripping down the floor beneath him. But the 12 branches were not ordinary assassins. They were monsters trained solely for war. A massive meteor hammer nearly crushed his skull several times, while heavy steel chains whipped through the room, sealing off escape routes from every angle. Still, Cha Si-hyuk remained standing. The assassins exchanged nervous glances. One by one, their numbers kept shrinking. And slowly, something terrifying began to appear in their eyes. Fear. The 10 billion won bounty no longer mattered. Not anymore. At this moment, standing before the blood-covered monster known as Blood Red Shirt, money meant absolutely nothing. Finally, Cha Si-hyuk reached the top floor. Bodies littered the hallway beneath his feet as he stopped in front of the chairman's office. Inside the room, every executive and bodyguard held their breath. The silence felt suffocating. Then the door slowly opened. Cha Si-hyuk stepped inside, his cold gaze sweeping across the terrified faces before finally settling on Lee Kwong-won. You didn't need to come out and greet me personally. His voice was calm, almost casual, as though discussing ordinary business. I already told you yesterday. He took another step forward. I'd be coming myself. For a brief moment, his eyes drifted toward the massive window behind the chairman. The city lights stretched endlessly into the distance. This was the city he had worked in for 10 years. Miju loved this night view. She once said that after their baby was born, they should come here together someday. Meanwhile, far away from the headquarters, Lee Bong-won quietly waited for news of the outcome. Surprisingly, he felt neither excitement nor sorrow. Only emptiness. For 9 long years, he had gathered the broken fragments of his shattered power, sharpening them slowly in preparation for revenge. And thanks to Cha Si-hyuk, the plan he spent nearly a decade building had finally begun to move. All because of one phone call. The strange emptiness inside him made him wonder something unsettling. Had he spent all these years simply waiting, for the waiting itself to end? Whether he gained everything or lost everything tonight no longer seemed important. Oddly enough, his heart felt lighter than it had in years. Back at headquarters, Cha Si-hyuk stepped over familiar corpses and advanced deeper into the chairman's office. The room stiffened in terror. The remaining elite killers hurried into defensive positions. "Sir," one of them shouted nervously, "just give the order. Should we kill him now?" The atmosphere reached its breaking point. Then suddenly, another body crashed violently through the entrance doors. Everyone turned sharply. No more pointless killing. Han Gang-sun stepped into the room, followed by Lee Bong-won's surviving men. Every assassin guarding the outside perimeter had already been eliminated. In an instant, the balance of power shifted completely. Even Man-soo, who understood Cha Si-hyuk better than almost anyone else, stared in stunned disbelief. He actually did it. His voice trembled. At the very end, Lee Kwong-won made the worst possible mistake. He turned someone like Cha Si-hyuk into an enemy. Seeing how hopeless the situation had become, Oh Nam-woong, a man famous for never retreating, unexpectedly raised his hand to stop his men. "There's no reason left to fight," he said heavily. "Everyone, survive." Then, as though this had been planned from the beginning, he calmly pulled out his phone and dialed a number. After a few seconds, he extended the phone toward Chairman Lee Kwong-won. "Our president is on the line. Take it." Lee Kwong-won's face twisted between shock and bitterness. Slowly, he accepted the phone. Then a familiar voice echoed through the speaker. "Little brother." Lee Bong-won's tone was calm, almost nostalgic. "It's been a while." At that moment, memories from years ago suddenly resurfaced in Lee Kwong-won's mind. One particular afternoon. Back then, Lee Kwong-won had just received news that a difficult problem had been successfully resolved. He was in an unusually good mood. After ending the call, he noticed something rare on Cha Si-hyuk's face nearby. Genuine happiness. "You look unusually excited today," Lee Kwong-won had remarked with curiosity. "Good news." Cha Si-hyuk nodded faintly. "My wife's birthday." A small smile touched his lips. "I bought her a gift." His normally cold eyes softened slightly. "I had to work late, so I left it outside the door. She just found it." A quiet pause followed. "She says she loves it." For once, even Lee Kwong-won looked genuinely moved. "After all these years," he admitted, "I didn't know you had this side to you." He chuckled faintly. "She must really be someone special." Cha Si-hyuk answered without hesitation. "She is." And simply thinking about Miju waiting for him at home brought warmth to his expression. Lee Kwong-won stared at him for a moment before speaking again. "I'm in a good mood today too." He waved his hand casually. "I can't reward you much, but clock out early. Go celebrate with her." Then he personally ordered the driver to stop the car and even opened the door for Cha Si-hyuk himself. Watching the chairman's vehicle disappear down the road, Cha Si-hyuk felt mildly puzzled by the sudden kindness. Still, he pulled out his phone and called Miju immediately. "Miju," he said softly, "want to go eat dinner together?" But the moment Cha Si-hyuk disappeared from sight, Lee Kwong-won's warm expression vanished completely. His face turned cold. Dead cold. At a massive shipyard on the outskirts of the city, hundreds of killers and mercenaries waited silently. Lee Kwong-won strode through the area like a king entering his kingdom. Whispers spread among a group of foreign mercenaries nearby. "So that's the man chosen by the Neville family?" Another scoffed coldly. "Looks more like another obedient lapdog." Deep inside the warehouse, Lee Bong-won hung suspended in chains, battered and restrained. Hearing footsteps approach, he slowly lifted his head and laughed weakly. "Kwong-won." A faint smile appeared on his bruised face. "Big brother's here. It's been a while." At last, Lee Bong-won's rage exploded completely. "Do you even understand what you've done?" he roared. "If father finds out about this, you're finished." But Lee Kwong-won only smiled calmly. "Father does love his precious firstborn," he said mockingly. "So yes, he'd definitely be furious." Then his smile deepened. "But tell me something, brother." His voice turned colder. "Do you really think father is still alive?" Lee Bongwon's expression shattered instantly. His eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. His breathing grew uneven. You couldn't have done this alone. He stared at Kwong-won with horror. Who put you up to this? Lee Kwong-won slowly walked closer. The Neville family. The name alone made the room feel colder. They wanted Islands On to become their branch in K country. But you and father refused them. A faint smile crossed his lips. So they came to me instead. They offered me the chairman's seat. Lee Bongwon's entire body trembled with fury. You're insane, he shouted. You're handing our entire company over to that family? Kwong-won's expression suddenly twisted with years of buried resentment. I spent my entire life standing in your shadow, he snapped. You had everything. His voice shook violently. The glory. The recognition. Father's attention. He pointed at himself bitterly. And me. I was invisible. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Lee Kwong-won smiled darkly. You've already had your turn. He leaned closer to his brother. So now, think of it as mine. His eyes burned with hatred. You've never known what it feels like to be ignored. His smile widened slowly. But I'll make sure you carry that feeling for the rest of your life. You bastard, Lee Bongwon growled through clenched teeth. But Kwong-won ignored him completely. Without another word, he calmly ordered the men beside him. Take one of his legs. The warehouse instantly erupted with screams. Lee Bongwon's agonized cries echoed through the building while Lee Kwong-won stood under the blazing lights, laughing uncontrollably. For the first time in his life, he felt victorious. His entire body trembled with satisfaction. Congratulations, Chairman, the assassins around him said respectfully. Years later, that same memory returned to haunt him. Now, Lee Bongwon's voice echoed coldly through the phone. You were right, Kwong-won. A bitter laugh followed. Think of it as your turn now. Enjoy every second of it. You bastard. Back in the chairman's office, Lee Kwong-won stared quietly at the badge in his hand. 50 years, he murmured. It took me 50 years to reach this place. He slowly lifted the badge. Do you know what this little thing means? His eyes became distant with memory. Ever since he was a child, he had always wondered why their father treasured this badge so much. What power could something so small possibly hold? Their father had started with absolutely nothing. Just a low-level thug hired to collect debts. But powerful financial elites admired his ruthless methods and secretly backed him with money and influence. That support transformed the organization into Korea's most feared assassination company. Naturally, Lee Kwong-won picked up a blade himself at the age of 17. From that point onward, he cut down everything standing in his way and climbed higher and higher. And much later, when his father's badge finally became his own, he finally understood. Every struggle, every betrayal, every corpse beneath his feet. Everything he had done in life was contained inside that tiny piece of metal. Lee Kwong-won raised the badge proudly. This, he declared, is proof that I crushed everyone beneath me. His eyes gleamed with obsession. This badge is my recognition. My reward. Suddenly, a blinding flash exploded across the room. The light was so intense that even I had to shield my eyes. Using the flash as cover, Lee Kwong-won instantly lunged toward me with his blade. Steel collided violently. I twisted aside at the last second and met him head-on. Our blades flashed repeatedly through the room. But it didn't take long before thin cuts began appearing all across his body. Small, precise, deadly. Lee Kwong-won let out a furious roar. You swore loyalty to me, he screamed. And now you bite the hand that fed you, Cha Si-hyuk? But no matter how loudly he shouted, the reality remained unchanged. He was losing. My blade kept driving him backward step by step. Then, in a single movement, I locked down his arm. His weapon flew from his grip instantly. I moved in to finish him. But suddenly, a hidden blade shot out from his wrist. He slashed desperately toward my throat. Our weapons clashed again violently. I drove my knife straight into his chest, only to feel resistance. A bulletproof vest. Lee Kwong-won laughed harshly despite his injuries. What's the point of struggling anymore? He gasped. No matter what you do, the outcome won't change. His voice shook slightly. Give up. Today is the day you die. I said nothing. I simply shifted my stance and sidestepped his attacks effortlessly. One slash tore open his chest. Another sliced across his neck. And finally, true fear appeared in his eyes. He realized something terrifying. If this fight continued, he would die. If not for that bulletproof vest moments ago, he would already be dead. Desperate, Lee Kwong-won threw himself forward recklessly, trying to force me backward through sheer momentum. But I tossed him aside like dead weight. By now, every assassin in the room had already abandoned him. The walls seemed to close tighter around him with every passing second. His breathing became uneven. Panicked, he grabbed Oh Nam-woong by the arm. Whatever Lee Bong-won is paying you, he shouted desperately, I'll double it. Then he corrected himself frantically. No, 10 times. You could kill that half-dead cripple any time you want, couldn't you? Oh Nam-woong looked at him quietly for a moment before sighing. My friend, he said slowly, you truly haven't changed at all. His expression hardened. Handle your own mess for once. His eyes narrowed coldly. Then and now, you always run to someone else whenever things get difficult. There's no time left to hesitate anymore. I slowly walked toward Lee Kwong-won. Every step dripped with hatred. My voice was colder than ice. Why did you do it? I stared directly into his terrified eyes. You haven't forgotten the agreement I made with your father, have you? The deal had been simple. When the time came, I could leave the organization freely. No strings attached. Lee Kwong-won backed away slowly, fear finally overtaking him completely. His lips trembled. I had no choice. After you left. Lee Kwong-won's voice trembled violently. What if you joined another company? His breathing became frantic. If that happened, me and my entire organization would have been finished. Fear filled his eyes as he backed away slowly. That's why I ordered One Eye to kill you. He swallowed hard. And just to be safe, I told him to stay quiet about it. I stared at him coldly. That bastard was never smart enough to make a decision like that on his own. My voice remained calm, but every word carried weight. So it wasn't difficult to figure out who was really pulling the strings. Lee Kwong-won finally broke. I was wrong, he shouted desperately. Everything I did for the company. Blood continued pouring from his wounds, making his vision blur. But even now, he still hadn't given up completely. Hidden beneath his coat was a final weapon. A gun. I'll pay you, he gasped. 1 billion. No, 10 billion. His voice cracked with panic. No one can stop me. I walked toward him slowly, step by step. The only person who could have stopped me, I looked directly into his eyes, was the one you murdered. Before I could finish speaking, Lee Kwong-won suddenly pulled out the hidden pistol. But he never got the chance to fire. A blade flashed through the air, and in the next instant, steel pierced his throat. Time seemed to stop. As death closed in around him, memories flooded through Lee Kwong-won's mind all at once. Since childhood, he had always lived beneath his older brother's shadow. No matter how hard he tried, no matter what he achieved, his father's attention always leaned toward Lee Bong-won. And as he grew older, that feeling only became worse. Forgotten. Overlooked. Like a stranger inside his own family. But only now, at the very end, did he finally understand the truth. The shadow he hated so much, the one he believed was blocking his path all these years, had actually been protecting him the entire time. By the time he realized it, however, it was already too late. The ending could no longer be changed. A while later, the surviving assassins quietly began cleaning the headquarters. Bodies were dragged away one after another. Even the corpse of the former chairman was handled without dignity. It was Oh Nam-woong who finally couldn't bear to watch anymore. Without saying a word, he personally lifted Lee Kwong-won's body and carried it downstairs himself. Hon Gang-san approached me quietly. Cha Si-hyuk. His voice carried genuine respect. We owe you a debt. He bowed his head slightly. Thanks to you, We were able to execute the man responsible for killing our former chairman. A brief silence followed. On behalf of everyone here, thank you. But then his expression darkened. Still, are you really okay with this? Killing Lee Kwong-won means the Neville family has lost their K-country branch. His eyes narrowed seriously. That's far beyond what even the elder can smooth over. They'll come to collect the price for this. I remained silent. Man-su sighed and helped me back to my feet. You look like hell, he muttered. But at least, it's finally over. The brutal conflict sent shockwaves through every hidden faction watching from the shadows. Across the underworld, the news spread like wildfire. The company's supreme elder mourned the fact that Lee Kwong-won had ultimately lost his way. Then he turned toward another man nearby, Jean-Pierre Zhou, the former commander of the organization's guard unit. Will you return? The elder asked quietly. Jean-Pierre Zhou smiled faintly. Things have already gone this far. He crossed his arms calmly. The least I can do now is watch over Lee Bong-won. His expression became serious. At this rate, the company Chongju built is going to collapse. Then he added quietly, and the Neville family will definitely come. The elder nodded heavily. My influence can only delay them once. His gaze darkened. So this time, they'll come personally. A pause followed. Si-hyuk is about to walk a very difficult road. Elsewhere, the subsidiaries beneath Island's Zen Corporation exploded into chaos after hearing the chairman was dead. What? One executive shouted in disbelief. Blood Red Shirt took over the company in a single day. Panic spread through meeting rooms everywhere. Forget everything else, another executive snapped urgently. Contact President Lee Bong-won immediately. We need to get on his good side now. Meanwhile, far away in London, inside the luxurious Saintstone Hotel, a calm female voice echoed softly through a quiet suite. How interesting. The woman swirled wine slowly inside her glass. The infamous K-country assassin. Blood Red Shirt. A faint smile touched her lips. And Island's Zen Corporation dismantling the Neville family's branch all in one night. She gazed out over the city lights. Things are about to become very turbulent again. Her eyes narrowed slightly. And the person who just challenged the Neville family. She laughed softly. Is our Si-hyuk of all people. Back inside the Neville family headquarters, the upper ranks erupted in fury the moment they received the report. Is this information accurate? One elder demanded coldly. Yes. The subordinate lowered his head respectfully. It all began after Lee Kwong-won murdered Cha Si-hyuk's wife. He continued carefully. Lee Kwong-won previously requested permission to eliminate Cha Si-hyuk, but we rejected the proposal. A tense silence followed. So he acted on his own. The elder's expression darkened instantly. In the end, he was foolish enough to create this entire disaster himself. Another voice spoke coldly from the shadows. Regardless of the reason, the Neville family's K-country branch has been destroyed. A dangerous pressure filled the room. We cannot allow that insult to stand. The elder slowly stood up. Call the hounds. His eyes became ice cold. Tell them they're about to meet an old friend. The scene shifted back to Island's Zen Corporation headquarters. Several men knelt shirtless before Lee Bong-won, trembling violently as they begged for forgiveness. Even without speaking, Lee Bong-won's presence alone was enough to crush the atmosphere around him. His gaze swept over them slowly. You manipulated a Kwong-won who knew nothing, he said coldly. Handing over the entire company to the Neville family wasn't enough for you people. His voice lowered dangerously. You took my father's life. Lee Bong-won's voice was ice cold. And one of my legs. His eyes slowly swept across the kneeling men before him. And in return, he held up 3 small metal badges between his fingers. All you gained were these? The men immediately panicked and began scrambling to defend themselves. We only chose what was best for the company. One of them shouted desperately. Another quickly added. You know better than anyone what happens to people who oppose the Neville family. Yes, another man cried out. Bong-won, you need to offer them even more loyalty than Lee Kwong-won did. He swallowed nervously. We still have valuable connections. We can help you smooth things over. But Lee Bong-won barely even looked at them. That's not how this works. His voice carried terrifying calmness. I already gave all of you enough time. A heavy silence filled the room. You'd better start praying now, because you won't have much time left to do it. The kneeling men visibly trembled. One of them raised his voice shakily. Can you really handle the consequences of this? The Neville family never lets go of grudges. Lee Bong-won remained completely unmoved. They've already taken everything from me. His expression hardened. So tell me, what exactly do I still have left to lose? Then he slowly leaned back in his chair. I'll be waiting right here for you, Neville. Meanwhile, deep within Neville family territory, the organization's elite hunting unit, known only as the Hounds, was being assembled. The assassins stood silently in formation as they were inspected by the upper ranks. A massive crimson door slowly opened before them. The pressure inside the room felt overwhelming. One of the Neville superiors finally spoke. You've all heard the news. His voice echoed heavily through the chamber. The mark protecting him has been nullified. A brief silence followed. There is now a debt that must be repaid. The superior's eyes narrowed coldly. Your target is Cha Si-hyuk. 1 week later. International Airport. K Country. A giant of a man stood before the assembled hounds, reviewing mission assignments. Everyone has received their target list, he announced coldly. Before the captain arrives in K Country, you will eliminate every core figure who challenged the Neville family. His voice dropped dangerously, including Cha Si-hyuk. A pause followed. Leave no one alive. Back at Island Zen Corporation headquarters, Jean-Pierre Zhou sat face-to-face with Lee Bong-won. After briefly catching up, their discussion quickly shifted toward the company's biggest problem. Oh Nom-woong had been traveling across the country, searching for the retired members of the old 12 branches. But rebuilding the team was proving far more difficult than expected. The former chairman's 12 branches had once been absolutely loyal. However, 10 years had already passed since those days. And revenge against the Neville family would be a brutal, exhausting war. During those years, most of the former branch members had already built entirely new lives for themselves. Families, businesses, normal lives. Whatever loyalty they once held toward the old chairman had likely faded long ago. That kind of bond couldn't simply be restored through a single conversation. Jean-Pierre Zhou glanced down at the newly proposed candidate list for the next generation of 12 branches. Only 4 names were written on it. He let out a bitter laugh. Cha Si-hyuk really tore this company apart. Hon Gang-sun crossed his arms thoughtfully. There's also Gu Man-soo. His tone carried genuine admiration. Cha Si-hyuk's friend. That guy's skills are on an entirely different level. He shook his head in disbelief. Honestly, it's ridiculous that nobody noticed him until now. But Jean-Pierre Zhou didn't seem impressed. Those dead fish eyes of his. He frowned slightly. You can tell immediately he has zero interest in status or rank. A quiet pause followed. I don't like him. Lee Bong-won sighed deeply. This isn't the time to be picky. His voice became firm. Even the smallest role matters now. He slowly stood from his chair. Gather everyone. We fight together. Elsewhere, Man-soo drove me home quietly. The worry on his face was impossible to hide. The company's completely chaotic right now, he said heavily. Lee Bong-won has fully committed himself this time. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel. It feels like he's heading straight into a full-scale war with the Neville family. Then he glanced at me carefully. What about you? What are you going to do now? My expression didn't change at all. I'm waiting. A brief silence followed. Because right now, waiting is the only thing I can do. As Man-soo drove away afterward, his unease only grew stronger. He understood what I was really doing. I wasn't simply waiting. I was waiting for the Neville family themselves. Man-soo quietly sighed to himself. I think he just needs something to keep moving forward. Even after completing his revenge, one fact would never change. Mi-ju was still gone, and no amount of bloodshed could ever bring her back. A short while later, Man-soo arrived home. His mother greeted him warmly at the front door. But the moment he stepped inside, something immediately felt wrong. A strange sound echoed from outside the house. His entire body tensed instantly. "Mom." His voice became serious. "Go to your room right now." His mother blinked nervously. "Is someone outside?" "There's been knocking for a while," she explained quietly. "But nobody answered when I called out, so I didn't open the door." Then suddenly, knock, knock, knock. The sound came again. Cold sweat instantly formed across Man-soo's face. "Mom." His voice sharpened urgently. "Please, go to your room right now." Then a familiar voice suddenly echoed from beyond the door. "Man-soo." Meanwhile, back at my apartment, I stepped out of the shower and walked toward the bedroom. Then I froze. Sitting openly on the table was a familiar emblem. The symbol of the Neville family. My eyes widened slightly. At that exact moment, my phone began ringing. Slowly, I picked up the emblem and turned it over. 3 words were engraved on the back. "Watch out for dogs." Then a familiar voice came through the phone, sending a chill down my spine. "Long time no see, Cha Si-hyuk." A quiet laugh followed. "Or should I call you Blood Red Shirt now? An upstanding man like you." The voice on the phone sounded amused. "And no screen lock on your phone either. Lucky for me, I reached you so quickly." A quiet chuckle echoed through the line. "How dull." I kept my voice cold and emotionless. "Kamaya Shin." A brief pause followed. "Where are you?" The man on the other end laughed softly. "You still recognize my voice? Good." His tone became darker. "You can't forget us that easily." He sounded almost nostalgic. "As you can see, we're in K country now." A faint mocking sigh escaped him. "You really lived peacefully these last 10 years under Glendale's protection, huh?" Another laugh followed. "You even got married through all of this?" His voice suddenly sharpened. "There's no saving you anymore." A chilling silence filled the line before he continued. "Well, since you've enjoyed such a happy life, now it's time for you to die." The call ended. Without hesitation, I immediately dialed Chairman Lee Bong-won. "You've already heard the news," I said calmly. "The Neville hounds are moving." A brief pause followed. "Even without me explaining it, you know what that means." Lee Bong-won remained surprisingly calm. "Looks like we're hunting the same prey this time," he replied quietly. Then he asked directly, "What's your plan?" "They want me." I stared at the Neville emblem on the table. "As long as they can't pinpoint my location, they'll create bait to force me out." My voice lowered slightly. "So I need a favor." "What kind?" "There's a place someone needs to go in my stead." I paused briefly. "Send your people there." Then I added coldly, "Send your best." Not long afterward, Hon Gang-san and his team arrived outside Man-soo's home. The rain poured heavily around them. Hon Gang-san knocked urgently on the door. "Cha Si-hyuk sent us," he explained the moment Man-soo opened it. "He wants us to move you and your mother somewhere safe." His expression was serious. "We have to leave immediately. The hounds are already coming this way." Man-soo instantly turned toward his mother. "Mom, put your coat on." He tried to keep his voice steady. "I'll explain everything later." At nearly the same time, elsewhere in the city, company employee Kim Hyun-soo was being violently interrogated by Kamaya Shin himself. The assassin stared down at the terrified man with curiosity. "The concept of a salaried worker," he murmured thoughtfully. "Truly fascinating." Kim Hyun-soo trembled uncontrollably as blood streamed down his face. "Please," he begged desperately. "Please spare me. I'll tell you everything I know." Kamaya Shin's expression instantly turned cold. "Did Cha Si-hyuk really never mention me?" His eyes narrowed dangerously. There's no way he forgot. A faint smile spread across his face. "We were close." Kim Hyun-soo panicked. Kamaya tilted his head slightly. "Ah, I see. So you're a liar." His voice became strangely calm. "You do remember. You're just pretending not to." He slowly crouched down in front of Kim Hyun-soo. "But either way, you still have to die." His smile widened unnaturally. The world doesn't need liars, does it? Kim Hyun-soo shook violently. I think he may have mentioned you before. Instantly, Kamaya Shin slammed his palm straight into the man's face. Be specific. His tone became terrifyingly sharp. Did he actually mention me? Yes. Kim Hyun-soo screamed desperately. Yes, he did. I'm sure I heard him say it. Kamaya stared at him silently for several seconds. Then he smiled. Really? He leaned closer. Then tell me. What's my name? Kim Hyun-soo froze completely. No answer came out. Only desperate pleading. Please. Please don't kill me. Kamaya sighed softly. If you don't know, you should just say so. He shook his head disappointedly. Why pretend? A brief silence followed. You really are a bad person. His eyes turned cold again. That's unfortunate. Because I hate bad people. And with that, Kamaya Shin wrapped his hands around Kim Hyun-soo's throat. Moments later, the man stopped breathing. Elsewhere, Hon Gang-san led Man-soo and the others through the rain in a desperate sprint. There's a vehicle waiting nearby, he shouted over the storm. If we can just reach it, we'll be safe. But suddenly, several figures stepped directly into their path, running around like ants. A mocking voice echoed through the rain. Two massive men slowly emerged from the darkness. One was enormous and towering. The other short and heavily built. The shorter one grinned lazily. Hey, old man. You're gonna ruin your joints running around like this. He scratched his neck casually. You're making me feel bad. Hon Gang-san's eyes widened instantly. The Bello brothers. The smaller man smirked proudly. Dio. Hon Gang-san felt his stomach drop. How? Then realization hit him immediately. They had known their exact location from the beginning. Chairman Lee Bong-won's earlier warning suddenly resurfaced in his mind. Leave Man-soo to us. Be careful. Those aren't ordinary killers. The warning echoed clearly in his thoughts. The Neville family's fangs are sharp. If you can't gather enough reinforcements, avoid direct confrontation at all costs. Hon Gang-san quickly made his decision. Everyone move, he shouted immediately. They tracked our exact location. His eyes darted around cautiously. That means someone else is watching us from a distance. Go before they close in completely. Man-soo hesitated, but Hon Gang-san grabbed him sharply by the shoulder. Think about your mother. Left with no other choice, Man-soo lifted his mother onto his back and started running again through the pouring rain. Dio watched them leave and clicked his tongue irritably. He's getting away. His face twisted with annoyance. We need to kill these guys quickly and go after him before he escapes. Surprisingly, the giant brother still hadn't moved at all. Dio. His deep voice sounded oddly calm. It's Sunday. A pause followed. No fighting on Sundays. Dio nearly exploded with rage. What the hell are you talking about? He pointed furiously toward the fleeing figures. Do you even know how much I paid when Kai behind the vice captain's back to get this intel? His eyes burned with frustration. That's Cha Si-hyuk's friend. We need him alive as a hostage. Hon Gang-san carefully observed the two brothers arguing. For some reason, the large one still wasn't making a move. According to the intelligence reports, Dio was supposedly the weakest among the Neville hounds. Hon Gang-san clenched his fists tightly. Then he made his decision. I take out the smaller one first. Several assassins behind him refused to retreat. We're staying with the chief. Hon Gang-san nodded firmly. Fine. His eyes sharpened. We eliminate the small one first. Then we bring down the giant together. Meanwhile, the Bello brothers finally seemed to finish arguing. Dio clicked his tongue irritably. Fine. He slowly cracked his neck. I'll go. But if he gets away,